Just 1 year in office, and Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin has found himself out of a job. Campaign finance fraud or fall guy? Now, of course, what he did was fucked up, but are we really going to sit here and pretend like he's the only one? Oh, New York, New York, big state of dreams. New York. Bribery? Cover-ups? Falsifying campaign forms? Taxpayer money for campaign contributions, aka quid pro quo. This brother lied on his vetting forms for lieutenant governor. This is a fucked up situation. Y'all just can't get it together, can y'all? Firstly, y'all governor, she's already a tyrannical lunatic, and y'all probably gonna re-elect her ass in November, but that's neither here nor there. Like I said, fucked up, but he is not the only one. And please don't make this a race issue. Now, I can go down the rabbit hole of how some people in Congress make $200,000 a year, but have a net worth of about $50 million. But we'll leave that alone. And New York State has some weird laws. Apparently, he can still be on the ballot in November because New York State, unless you leave the state or unless you die, they're not going to remove you from the ballot. Now, I don't know why that is. Y'all can go look that up because it ain't my state and I don't care. And apparently, the governor and lieutenant governor aren't like, the president and vice president. They don't run on the same ticket. So it's like you elect one, you elect the other. Well, I guess that's kind of cool. In my opinion, it's just another case of, somebody who's just being used as a fall guy and covering it up for all the other motherfuckers who are doing basically the same damn thing in politics. Stealing money, redirecting funds, illegal campaign fundraising practices, etc., etc. So it's hard for me to take shit like this seriously. I mean, I'm bored. I'm literally bored. So if you're gonna take one and not all, then I don't see why I should really give a fuck about this. And this is beyond Republican Democrat because both motherfucking parties do it. But if you get caught up when you're a little guy, your ass is going down. And if you're not in the good graces of the media, you're really getting fucked. Voters, this is a good time for y'all to start making different choices. Better, worse, whatever, but different. Clearly, this system isn't working in New York State, and it's time for y'all to clean house, and that includes the current governor. You didn't ask for my advice, but I'm giving it to you. And let's be clear, this is sad as hell. It was a lot of promise there, but shit, you just gotta go about shit the right way sometimes. Thank God New York politics is no longer my problem. Enjoy, y'all.
What's up, y'all? It's Macho,
It's Savory,
and you're watching
and you're watching.
Drinks with a Nobody.
Be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, like our channel, share our content. We premiere Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Some news, not too surprising for many people because corruption never ceased to go away when it comes to these politicians. It just sticks around, man. It just sticks around. But here we go. New York Lieutenant Governor arrested on federal bribery charges. By the way, that's the second highest ranking official of New York. Give people perspective. This is not just a regular politician. Nobody know. This was handpicked by Kathy, who is the
Governor.
Hochul is the last name, right?
Yeah, Kathy Hochul.
Hochul. Handpicked by her. All right. Again, not sure if she knew any of this, not accusing her of anything, but who knows, right? This political game is so intertwined. But nonetheless, Lieutenant Governor arrested on federal bribery charges. Before we get into details, Macho, you surprised by this? How did this news catch you? What's your thoughts here?
I was, I think I was very surprised, honestly, considering all the information that we know about various, and I mean various amount of politicians, and to see that the FBI in a liberal state or the Attorney General, who is probably the Attorney General, Letitia James, this is another like Attorney General, not a member of the, that works for Letitia James. She's like the main person, but they're like hammering after the Trump administration, Trump corporation and stuff like that. They seem to be infatuated with anything Trump. So I found it very interesting that they would kind of eat their own, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's an inside scoop, I would say, how politics goes. Maybe he owed a favor. maybe he dropped the ball somewhere, right? This is where
Right.
my mind goes. Like, what happened? Maybe your end of the deal didn't work out as planned, so maybe we got to get you out of there. And since you're not leaving, this is the way to do it, right? So that's how dirty it gets, right?
Yeah,
But
and it's probably like again, like I'm surprised that pretty much this is a Democrat run
yeah,
state, Democrat run city,
hmm
right? So I'm thinking like I'm surprised they would do this to their own, but not surprised that the lieutenant governor is guilty of or allege guilt in bribery charges and campaign funds and stuff like that.
yeah. So he was accused, by the way. This accusation took place when he was state senator.
Ooh,
All right,
okay.
so just to clear that up as well, right now he holds the second highest position when it comes to politics in New York as the lieutenant governor. But
Hmm.
these charges came out while he was state senator, right?
Right.
So let's give some details behind these charges here, right? The indictment, the result of an investigation by the FBI and the U.S. attorney for the Southern District, right? So that's what surprised you because it's the New York Southern District Attorney accused Mr. Benjamin of conspiring to direct state funds to a Harlem real estate investor in exchange for orchestrating thousands of dollars in illegal campaign contributions to Mr. Benjamin's unsuccessful 2021 campaign for New York City Controller.
Which
So
probably that money was going to his campaign, but was probably most importantly going to his pocket.
there you go. When you
Yeah.
can't track campaign contributions, right? When you can't when you don't really have a trail for it, that means you can do whatever you want with the money, right? We see this with Hillary Clinton. We don't know what happened with the money. We see this with just who's the other person I'm thinking of right here? Um,
Well, I know, for example, we know Kamala Harris.
okay,
Not
you mentioned the mayor.
indirectly,
Yeah,
Kamala Harris is
Willie
guilty.
Brown.
Well, not necessarily guilty because she was never like in. Actually, no, I'm sorry. She was guilty. Her campaign in San Francisco was charged
Hmm.
for campaign fraud, and they paid the most fines in history in San Francisco. Willie Brown, the mayor, was once the mayor in San Francisco. Helped her reach to the point where they were utilizing the sanitation department in San Francisco to campaign on her behalf.
Wow.
Yeah,
And take a
and
look at that. She's the
yeah,
second
she
highest
was
ranking
actually
official in
guilty.
the government now,
She was
federal
actually
level.
guilty of it. She was guilty of it, right? She had to pay a fine. That was it, a large
Wow.
fine. She was actually guilty. I was going to say allegedly guilty. No, she was actually guilty of this. And despite all that information, she was still DA. She was still senator, and then
Hmm.
obviously now the second highest seat in the land.
Crazy, crazy. So again, when you can't track this kind of money, which if it happens at a federal level, right? We mentioned with Kamala Harris, second highest position in government now,
Mhm.
Hillary
Yeah.
Clinton, and many people at a local level, probably on both sides. But the
Correct.
problem is when you can't track this money, we don't know. Oh, the other example I was thinking about is BLM, right? So this is also a similar one. You can't
Right.
track the campaign. It's not a campaign. This is more of a donation, right? Not they weren't technically running a campaign, or maybe you can argue they were strategically in a way. But the point is, you couldn't track this money. Now, when you get audited, which is why it's important to keep records, especially when you're doing campaigns, they have strict laws on that, rightly so, I think. But look, what happened to that money? You can't tell me.
You see,
I can't
people
tell
are
you.
arguing in the public, they're arguing the BLM situation wrong,
Mm.
right? The reason why they're being looked at is because they're paying way above market value for a house. So they paid $6 million for a house that don't cost 6 million. So the reason why the feds, particularly the IRS, incorporated with this investigation, is looking into BLM because they're seeing that okay, you're bolstering the price here. Are you hiding or laundering money into this? Right?
Mm.
Because you're paying way above market value for a house that don't cost 6 million. So are you stashing this money in a way? Is what they're saying. So at the
Yeah.
sale, you're saying you paid this much to say that you're rid yourself of that amount of money and you
Mhm.
paid somebody when in actuality you probably just documented that you paid that much and now they're looking into that. So
Yeah.
that's what they're arguing the wrong way towards that. And I think that's strategic because again, a lot of people, especially conservatives,
Mhm.
especially black conservatives, have very high question marks when it comes to BLM because they're saying all this money that they got, Savory, did
Yeah.
they invest into the black community? Now, BLM is going to argue that they did. They invested it, whatever, but they generated like over $1 billion just over the 2020 incident that happened with George
Mhm.
Floyd, by the way, because you had all types of actors, activists, everyone was like, yeah, we're for this. And also BLM is world renowned now. You
Yeah.
know, this is going, it went global. So they got all this money. They don't know what to do with it. That's the only part that I would say is fair, right? You got a large amount of money in a short vacuum, and you probably didn't know what to do with it, how to document that, or how to
No, but
allocate
at the
it.
very least, you have to document like
Right,
this
right,
is 101 here. Contribution 101. They give you money. Who gave it to you? Is it going to a fund related to the organization, a
correct,
bank
correct.
account, an LLC? That's simple. You don't have to be you don't have to have a master plan on how to use the money. If you don't know how to use it, it doesn't mean you could buy a house. If I don't know how to use the money, it doesn't mean that
It,
I got the leeway to use it the way I
yeah,
want.
and I 100% agree with you, and it does is see it's not as innocent as them just buying a house, Savory.
Yeah.
It's they were paying way above. We're talking about the house may have been $1 million, Savory. They paid $6 million that they documented it. They paid way above market value, so that's going to raise red flags for every
Yeah.
industry, including the IRS. Like, wait a minute, that house is actually not even at market value for 6 million. Are you laundering money? So they're going to investigate that because we do, and we know we've been saying this all along that BLM is just
Mhm.
a front grassroots organization for the Democrat Party, and no other who was the loudest about this. We all know who was the loudest about this. No other than Candance Owens. She
Exactly.
was loud about this. She
Yeah.
argued tooth and nail. They called her a zealot. They called her
Mhm.
ignorant, whitewash, all these kinds of names. And she goes on social media saying after this alleged incident, she said, "You guys owe me an apology."
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because
and I saw that, and
right,
she has a great point there, right? And then just to bring it full circle, what you're talking about, some people can see with the lieutenant governor some of these charges, which I think are very relevant to what you just said with BLM. We have wire fraud, falsification of records, right?
oh
Because
man,
you can't do what you did, like what BLM did and other people without these charges. I don't know the exact charges on the BLM side, but I know they're frustrated because more transparent laws are coming out and all that. I saw a video on that. But the point is, two things to mention here: wire fraud, falsification of records, right? Going back to Benjamin. Benjamin pleaded not guilty in Manhattan federal court and is out on $250,000 bond. He balling. He got money. All right, that's number one.
of
But
course.
Benjamin, so check this out, right? So I'm gonna get to the heat of some of what's happening here. You ready for this, Macho? Check it out. Benjamin personally met with the developer to receive his contributions, even meeting on the street to collect a bundle of contributions.
Wow,
Sounds like a street, like The Wire here.
like a
like,
freaking
like what happened here?
like
Really?
a money transfer, like they're buying drugs, and they're like, all right, let me see your suitcase. All right, you got yours, I got mine. All right, cool. See you later.
I had
Like,
to
what
read
the
that like
heck?
twice because I'm like, wait, y'all got camera footage maybe or testimony? But again, we'll see how they got that
Somebody
information.
snitched. Somebody
Yeah,
snitched.
somebody had to snitch. Exactly. So, New York State Board of Elections, so let's carry on here, notified Benjamin's campaign in 2019 that it needed to file forms identifying the owners of LLCs, like I mentioned earlier, right? Because you have to track it to the bank account, the LLC. At the very least, you don't have to tell them what you're going to do with every cent. That's not the law. The law is they need to know that you're managing that money at least properly. So, the Board of Election notified Benjamin, like I said, to identify the owners of the LLCs that had contributed to the campaign, including one linked to the unnamed real estate developer. Benjamin
Wow.
allegedly asked a staffer in an email. So this is a record from him after he got that from the Board of Elections. He asked the staffer, and I quote, "What happens if someone refuses to provide the information?" This is what he asked the staffer back.
Benjamin allegedly directed a $50,000 state grant to a nonprofit organization controlled by CC1. And in exchange, Benjamin received tens of thousands of dollars of campaign contributions from CC1. Those contributions were directed both to Benjamin's State Senate campaign committee and to Benjamin's New York City comptroller campaign.
What?
So that's documented. They got those records. The FBI
So
got
they
those
definitely.
records.
So obviously they were
Something's happening.
wiretapping. They were
Yeah,
wiretapping
obviously,
him too. Yeah.
when you respond like that, right? It's like you donate money to me, but I don't want people to know who you are. I ask my staff, yo, what happens if we don't tell them is Macho that donated that money to me? Like what?
Maybe
like,
the
you know what I'm saying?
staffer
Like,
is also part of the investigate. Like, you know, they were investigating through the staffer too as well.
Taxpayer money for campaign contributions. Quid pro quo. This for that. That's bribery, plain and simple.
The feds probably got to him.
Yeah, probably got
Again,
to him.
there's definitely a lot of snitching going on here. Someone was saying something. And
There's
also,
a lot of snitching.
I have to say too, I agree with your initial prognosis. This guy probably burned somebody of the party within his own party. And I'm curious as to listen, I'm curious, is Cuomo behind this? Because remember, a lot of Democrats turned their back on him after he was hailed or heralded as the hero. Remember?
And
they turned on him.
And he's out for vengeance as well. He don't like the way he went out. So who knows? And he didn't lose all his connections. But he lost some powerful ones.
I'm sure he has to be behind this. I'm sure to some extent. And obviously that's a conspiratorial thought. But I have to say it wouldn't be far-fetched. Because again,
for sure. I'm with you 100%. But Mach, I need to bring this home. You ready? I know I'm giving you a trail of pretty interesting facts here. You ready for this one?
Yeah, sure.
Prosecutors claim, keyword, it's a claim, so we'll see how true this is. But I want to end with this as well, as far as this little segment I'm doing here of what's happening. Prosecutors claim Benjamin called the real estate developer 2 hours after he submitted the questionnaire for the first time in 6 months.
Oh my God.
This is just that. This is what you call, not looking too good for this court case coming up for you, for this criminal court case, and it's just not looking good because this is a trail. And this I got this from different places, put it together. I actually got interested when you told me about the top.
He's going to cut a deal. He's going to cut a deal with the DOJ. Just less of the Southern District of New York. He's going to cut a deal. He's going to probably get maybe a year jail time, maybe a probation. And probably, pay a large fine and restitution. Probably pay like maybe $500,000 back to the state. That's about it. And he probably has way more than that amount. And anyways, so they're gonna probably say, all right, cut us a check, do a year, which he won't actually do a year. He'll be in protective custody for about whatever time, and then be released and be on probation, and that'll be the end of it. I don't see anything real substantial happening to the lieutenant governor. When
it's hard to see anything happening to a powerful politician.
I don't know if you also know this. It's just a snippet of something we may cover later. But Governor Hochul, her husband, cut a deal with I guess some organization to get a new stadium for the Buffalo Bills. And her husband is the head of the concessions. Like he's like a consultant of the concessions.
All the permits. All the great prices, he's all the developers, all the construction workers. Okay,
multi-million-dollar deal. Kathy Hochul's husband is going to strike. And you mean to tell me that the governor has no say as to the new stadium happening there?
You cannot make this up, bro. This is what you hit me with now. That that pisses me. Like, wow, because it's clear corruption. You don't just get a deal like that. Developers take years to get these kind of deals, and it's a lot of intricacies involved. They're probably just
this is just the indication, Savory, that politicians just have way too much power, both right and the left. Yeah. I do not want to see them having this much power. If the citizens voted on this and they say and hey, and if the governor is benefiting from it because via their husband or their wife, you know what? I could understand that, but at least the state understood and knows what's going on. I'm sure Buffalo, the fans want a new stadium. I'm sure they want all this. I'm not advocating that, we don't do anything for citizens or residents of these particular places. But when it has vested interest in your personal gain, I have a problem with that.
Yeah, for sure. Let me ask you this. I got a final question, unless you got anything else for you, but I got this final question for you, Macho.
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
read this that really resonated with me, and I'm like, wow, this is worth a thought. Let me run this by Macho, see what you think here. A politician, when found guilty, should be punished more harshly than a private citizen simply because of the trust they need to perform their jobs. We have to trust them. What do you think of that quote, right? What do you think of that sentiment, let's say? Like, do you think that's fair because of the responsibility and trust we need in them? Should they have a harsher sentencing and to that extent when you think of that? What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I do believe
Wow.
that they need a
Okay.
harsher sentencing, but the problem is the reason why they won't get that is
It's
because
the
some of
complete
the
opposite though right
information.
now.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think the reason why they won't get that kind of harsh penalty, it's like, for example, if you put the president of the United States guilty of whatever crimes, that person knows secrets and information that you just can't put them in Gen Pop, right? Or you can't put them in certain areas because, hey, you might have them sing like a canary. And once they say something, they say something. It's over. So I think what happens is the reason why I think, okay, it may not be punitive in them being incarcerated or hey, they're just paying fines, sure. But think of the social punishment that they receive.
Mhm.
Elliot Spitzer could have been a great governor in New York State. He was a Republican, the last Republican elected to the governor's office in New York City.
Yeah, that's fair.
He could have been a great governor, but because of the scandal of him being the quote unquote caller number 9, right,
Mhm.
in a sexual scandal, I guess he had like this relationship with a prostitute, right?
Mhm.
He could have been a great governor, but because of that, he is now known as a disgraced
Yeah,
governor.
yeah. You answered my
You
question
you
there.
get what I'm saying?
Perfect, and that's a great
Uh,
example. Yeah, yeah, I'm with you there.
And
Yeah.
I think to an extent should extend to Andrew Cuomo, but the problem is here though, Savory, the difference is Cuomo's won the hearts of so many New Yorkers that
Mhm.
they said that if he was to run again, which he could, right? Which he could, that he would probably win. He would probably win the governor's office again. And that just is
That says it all.
it's not about see at this point, it's not
That
about
says
Andrew
it all,
Cuomo.
man.
It's not about Andrew Cuomo at that point. It's
Yeah,
about the people of New York. It's about the people who are voting. That's where I have my frustrations as well.
yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point,
So
man.
I want to thank everybody for joining us. This was a great episode. We covered about the lieutenant governor in New York being arrested on federal bribery charges. If you like what we're doing, if you like what we're talking about, if there are other topics that you want us to talk about, please put that in the comment section.
Yes,
Please hit
sir.
that like button. Consider hitting that subscription button, and thank you for joining us for drinks. We drop episodes Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, we'll see you guys again. Cheers.
Later.